sure that's recording. But yeah, good morning, everybody. Matt Winzenried with Matt Winzenried Real Estate Partners and Realty Executives. We work Dane County. We help people buy and sell homes with the focus on being the west side of Madison, Middleton, Verona, and Fitchburg. We recently moved over into the parking lot of Fitchburg, or the parking lot of Target in Fitchburg, next to the Flying Hound and really close to Cherry and Elements and such. So that's fun. But yeah, this housing market has been pretty crazy. So since COVID hit, the brakes were put on right away while everybody just kind of figured out what was happening. We probably had, I'd say 5 to maybe 10% of our transactions ended up falling apart in April, which is just, we had more transactions fall apart in April than we did all of last year. And a lot of that was just more concerns, and I think people are also just like looking out for their best interests, whatever that might have looked like, and getting out of contracts or just, yeah, pressing pause. And so that was a likely response, or I understand that people would have that response. And so in the real estate community, we were just kind of continuing to grind it out wherever people still needed to buy. So even in March and April, we were out taking people out to look at homes. So we were telling people that time, like, we don't know what next week's going to look like. We don't know what next month's going to look like, because everything was so up in the air, and which is probably the truth through everybody's industry. So now that we kind of have our feet underneath us and people are feeling good about looking at homes, the market's just really taken off. And one thing I like to look at as a leading indicator, I'm going to share my screen real quick here. I like to look at what showings look like, how many people are actually out looking at homes. This is a good leading indicator. And so on this one, can everybody see the screen with this chart? Yes. Yep. Is anybody else sick of looking at charts like this? Is it COVID? Is it? I mean, I feel like I look at charts like this all the time. Anyway, so with this, the yellow line is 2020 this year compared to the blue line 2019. And obviously you can see this sharp drop off here of showing. So a lot of people hit the brakes. There's still people out here, and we put some deals together. And then come May, you've seen this just increase, and then throughout June. So now our activity is actually more than what you're expected to see this type of year than last year. And obviously we're playing catch up here. So this is a really good sign. This is what realtors are looking at, and thinking that instead of the busy season being March and April, like you see here, it's just going to be May and June, and hopefully trickle into July. So we're seeing some really good trends and signs right now, showing that that buyers are back and activity is really picking up. So for the month of May, I might have mentioned this last week, we ended up tying our best month ever with the amount of accepted offers on properties. So we had 29 accepted offers in the month of May, and last year, April, we had 29 accepted offers as well. So we are only down 6 overall transactions this year compared to last year. And then with this trend line going up, it's showing that we're probably going to continue to be active through June and July, and hopefully into August. We might end up with a better year this year, and we'll see how it plays out. But right now, the trend is looking pretty good. If people do care about some stats and want to know what the housing market locally is doing, our median sales price, we're in Region 3, if you guys can see this chart. Region 3, our median sales price is $302,000. So the average sales price is like $329,000, which is crazy, but you take out some of the outliers, and we're at $302,000. The other thing we like to look at is months of inventory. Again, I talk about that a lot. Basically, it just helps us gauge how much inventory do we have, how many buyers are out there, and the inventory is still really low. Months of inventory is right around three months of inventory. So yeah, I don't want to bore you guys with too many stats. 2 other things here. In May, there was a 30% increase in showings from April, again, showing that trajectory that things are going well. Buyers are back out there looking. And one last stat here before I pass it on to Ryan quick is just where our prices projected to go further than just this year. And can you guys see this one where it says home prices projected? That's shown up? Yes, okay.
Yes.
So a handful of different sources are showing where they project the rest of 2020 to be as far as values go. and then 2021 and 2022. So all of them, except for this top one, is showing some kind of increase in values throughout the whole year, and then that it'll just continue to go up. Home values will continue to go up for the next couple of years. So housing market continues just to be a strong play. People love buying homes, and things right now look really strong. Now again, 6 months, a year, this could all change, but right now things are looking pretty good. I think the real estate market has weathered the storm, to say, and have come out looking pretty well. And with that, I'll pass it on to Ryan and have him share some of his thoughts on what he's seeing on interest rates and how buyers are qualifying for loans.
Yeah, before I do that and show another boring chart, Matt, I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about the idea of, is it safe to go out and look at homes, and how you guys navigated that? How are you handling people coming in and out of homes?
Yeah, yep. So ever since the start, we've adapted quickly, wearing masks, using hand sanitizer, wiping things down. The trickiest thing is actually for sellers, and then especially when they had nowhere to go. So that's really what slowed things down as well, is that buyers were still comfortable going out. They wear protective measures, and we kept, physical distancing. But sellers are like, well, if I'm leaving my house, I'm bringing in a bunch of people who may or may not be sick. And then I'm also trying to figure out where the heck I'm going to go. So now things have opened up a little bit more. People feel a little bit more comfortable letting people into their homes, and either weather is gorgeous, they can go outside, or at least they can go and, go get lunch or something like that and get out the house for a little bit. So, but yeah, we right away just implemented some safety measures, and people rolled with it pretty well.
All right, cool. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to bore you guys with one more chart here. Sorry about that, but I think it's relative to look at what's going on in the rate market, because everyone wants to ask me about mortgage rates and where they're at and where they're headed. So I thought I would show you what we look at behind the scenes. This chart is showing you the rate market, and what I thought I would do is show you a 5-year look at where interest rates have been throughout 5 years. The higher these patterns are, the better interest rates are. And you can see we're over here on the far right today, which last Wednesday, Thursday was the lowest rate in US history. So just to put everything in perspective, you can see the dates down on the bottom. And if I show a 3-month look at things, it's relatively been stable since, you can see over here, this is when everything was going crazy, and rates actually went up for about a week until the government stepped in and said, we're not going to let rates go up because the mortgage liquidity needs to lead us out of troubled times like this. And so what they do is they step in and they buy mortgage-backed securities. So the US Treasury buys about currently $4 to $8 billion in mortgage-backed securities a week. They did this in 2009 and 10 when things were bad during the housing crisis. And basically what they're doing is artificially holding interest rates very low. And at the time that they stepped into the market, if you look on the far left-hand side here, you'll see mid-March, rates were going up. And for about a week, they went up almost a point. And they basically just realized that no other buyer was in the mortgage-backed security market, meaning all the mutual funds, all the foreign investors, no one wanted anything to do with the US mortgage market. So the government became the only buyer. And the only reason I tell you that is just to give you a little idea of inside workings of interest rates. Interest rates are very low. The outlook of where they're going to go from here is kind of a coin flip. I read stuff every day. None of the people who predict this will even go beyond a couple days. The bottom line is they're very good. As far as a refinance goes, I'm in one of those weird industries where when the economy struggles, our industry gets very busy because of things like this. Every refinance has its own unique things to evaluate, where you were at with your current loan, what the rate is, how long you've been in it, how long you're going to be in the home. So just a note on that not all refis are a no-brainer. It's kind of a case by case. And then I thought I would show you a little information on what has been happening let's see here. Did I lose my screen share, or do you see a white screen? Hello?
Still the chart.
Still the
It's
chart.
still the
Sorry.
chart.
All right. I'm only on level 2 of Zoom mastering. Oh my gosh, sorry. How about now?
Yep, good.
Recent changes. Okay, so a couple things that have gone into how are we documenting and approving loans. Like Matt said, in April, a lot of loans were falling apart. People were in the process of buying a home. They got furloughed. Their business got shut down. I have a lot of examples, as I'm sure Matt does. But basically what happened is the people who make the rules of loan approval came in and said, we're going to change the way we document income. Basically, the age of a document went from 120 days to 60 days for proof of income. Unless it's a fixed income, how we verify income has changed. We need more up-to-date information. As far as verifying your employment, a lot of people don't know this, but before you buy a home, you get approved with your mortgage. And then once you're within a 10-day window, this is pre-COVID, once you're within a 10-day window buying a home, we as the lender have to call and verify you're still working. So within 10 days, and they moved that up to now it's 24 hours. So lenders have to go in the day before you're closing and make sure that you're still working. So that's a change there. And then regarding furloughed employees, there are a lot of people that have been furloughed. We will work off of a furloughed income as long as the employer will tell us when they're back to work. Which is a challenge. Some employers are very good at that and they're very scheduled with their furloughs, and some of them are saying, hey, until things improve, and that doesn't work. We will look at case by case, meaning if someone is furloughed and they're only furloughed 20%, we will use 80% of their income and work with them. And then one last piece on self-employment. A lot of you are self-employed, and as far as how you verify income, it's been very interesting to see how our industry adapts. It's funny, Tabitha, one of the examples we used in this PowerPoint was a hair salon. But I've worked with hair salon, I've worked with restaurants of people where their businesses had to close, but they found ways to conduct business, whether it be curbside or gift certificates or product. And we were able to go and say, okay, they're still operating their business, and we can use deductive reasoning of what their income had been and what it will be when things open back up. So for people who are self-employed and are considering buying, there are options that we'll work through with you. It's not a hard and fast rule that if your business was forced to shut down, that we wouldn't be able to use your income to qualify. And then finally, because of COVID and people not wanting to congregate, our industry is forced to ramp up its e-closing, which for those of you who've bought a home or refinanced, you sign a lot of paperwork at closing. And the conversation has always been, when are we going to be able to e-sign this stuff? And the time is now. So we are now doing e-closings where you will be sent your loan documents the night before. You can go and read them and look at them and electronically sign all of them except for 4 pages. So when you go into a title company to close, you're signing 4 or 5 pages and you're out of there. So that it's funny, the e-closing has been talked about for 5 years, and once COVID hit, all of a sudden it happened in about a week. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Bottom line is people are still buying homes. People are financing a lot on their home. And if anyone's interested, both Matt and I, I'm sure would love a conversation to sit down and talk through it.
Yeah, Ryan, you mentioned the e-closings. What permanent positive changes have come out of COVID that you see for the industry?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is efficiency. We've all learned how to use technology and brought our industry into where it probably should have been. My client meetings are 15 to 20 minutes now with all the data they need, and they're not having to drive around and meet for everything, even though I still prefer that. But so I would say the first thing is efficiency, and we're being forced to adapt technology. E-closing is one of them. One of the other things that's coming is it's called RON, and it's where you're able to close entirely from your home. And there's a process where you actually will show your ID on to a notary, and they will do like a online verification of your identification, just like through something like this. So where you won't even have to go anywhere to close and buy. Yeah, those are probably the positive things from my end. And also, it's been fun to see how our industry is adapting to help people. You know, the guideline changes that are being made, they're not there to not lend money. They're there to figure out how do we still lend money in an environment where there's a lot of fear and uncertainty for people's employment. So I've been really proud of the way that we've been able to work through a lot of those situations.
Yeah, so the ability to be able to buy a home while at home is going to hurt a few people like Jasmine after a couple glasses of wine, seeing a home that you like on Zillow, a couple buttons later, and all of a sudden she bought a house in Florida. So be careful with some of these new technologies coming down. Might make it a little bit easier for you to buy a home when you might not be ready to purchase a home. So any questions from the crowd, from the B&I crew about just the residential housing market that we can impart some of our wisdom on?
Yeah, Ryan, I'm interested to hear your perspective on, are these permanent changes or will they be rolled back, or do you think we'll land somewhere in between long term?
That's a great question. You know, I have kind of an interesting perspective having gone through 9/11, '09 housing crisis, and now this one, and seeing how our industry reacts and then adapts. Usually what I see is that over time, they start making changes back the other way, and they're very subtle. I would imagine some of them will stick and some of them will stay. A rule like a furloughed employee, for example, there have been rules about furloughed employees for forever. It's just that it's not a common conversation. It doesn't happen that often. And so some of these rules are stuff that's already been in place, and now it's just more commonly talked about. But I think we'll land in the middle, and it'll be fluid to see, I mean, where do we go from here? You know, what do the next 6 months to 3 years look like?
I have a question, maybe more of a comment. Do you think we're going to, with self-employed people, there's going to be much more requirements down the road? I know you said, you know, looking at like their income during COVID, but do you think this is going to lead to, you know, more like financials required, things like that?
Yeah, that's a great
going
question,
forward?
Jasmine. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you're going to see more if you haven't already. But one of the things that are required now are year-to-date P&Ls more often. So, you know, in the past for a self-employed person, we look at, you know, 08 or 18 and 19 taxes, and we make sure you're still in business, and we can use your income. Now we're having to do profit and loss statements, not necessarily to calculate their income, but to verify what I said earlier. You know, if you're Tabitha and you are bringing in some revenue on product and gift certificates and whatever else, or Sherry with memberships, we're going to use that to determine, okay, they're still in business, not necessarily saying what is their income right now. So I think that you'll see some more requests for kind of current self-employed income, mainly to make sure that it's still coming in on some level.
Hey, Ryan, as you know, my wife and I are going through the process with you right now, but just for the group in general, because my wife, for example, is on maternity leave right now and she's not producing any income. But if you could just speak generally for those that don't have income due to maternity, for example, for a 12-week time, let's call it, you know, how is that viewed?
Yeah, maternity is something that is pretty easily used. I mean, some of it depends on what type of work they do. You know, if they're salaried, if they're hourly, if they're commission, if they're, you know, I mean, there are a lot of ways that we have to look at that. But generally speaking, if you're on maternity, we're able to utilize your income as long as we know the timeline. And I would put a few caveats in there for how you're paid. But yeah, no, that's pretty standard, that we're able to look at what you make and when you'll be going back to work and utilize that income.